Well, hello, DCO Nation. Welcome back to another DCO Live. Steve, Heath, good to see you guys. I appreciate you stopping by here tonight. Steve, I hope you've been out on the water fishing. The fishing's been really good, especially the last couple of weekends. So, yeah, nice to see you in here tonight. Let's jump right into it. We've got kind of a full slate, but the first thing I kind of want to hit on is there are a couple of ways to listen to DCO live. Right here on YouTube is one of them. And then another way is I started to upload on Spotify. So if you guys are looking for a podcast to listen to, if you missed the actual live show, you can go over to Spotify and just search DCO Live and you will pick me up right there. And I think I have 5 episodes uploaded right now, some past episodes, so you guys can jump on there if you are looking for a podcast to listen to either in the car. I know guys listen to them at work with like headphones on, so if you head over there, you can leave a comment just like on YouTube. Leave a rating. Let me know how you like it. And then also, you can follow me there. So I appreciate you heading over there and giving that a try and giving it a listen. Speaking of Spotify, next week there will not be, excuse me, there will not be a DCO live on YouTube due to Thanksgiving. So I'm going to be taking the week off and having Thanksgiving with my family. We got got my in-laws coming in, and my sons will both be here. So that's going to be a great time. But I am going to upload a special DCO on Spotify, and I'm going to be talking about cold fronts moving through and how to fish in and around cold fronts. And especially this time of the year, fall going into winter, cold fronts affect things so much. So I wanted to do an episode on that, but you can only catch that on Spotify. So if you go over there and again search DCO Live on Spotify, I will pop right up and you guys can check it out. I do have just a few more hats left. So if you guys are looking for an early Christmas gift for yourself or a stocking stuffer, I do have, and I think I probably only have maybe 3 or 4 um, uh, Dead Calm hats left. So, hit me up on Facebook, Instagram if you guys want a hat. So let's go ahead and let's jump right into the first question. Steve, I have, but I've been working on my boat, new transom and such. Ah, okay. You haven't been taking the kayak out, I guess. So, working on the boat, getting that ready to go. Cool, man. Love it. Love it. So, I got a question about a week ago, and it's from Daniel Armand 2173, and he asked, can you speak to scouting by maps? I'm trying to find a map that shows low tide versus high tide to find oyster bars and other underwater structure. So, yeah, when I am pre-fishing for the weekend or if I'm going to new water, I use Google Earth. So I am going to pull that up and I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully you guys, yep, you guys, there we go. Hey, Russell, good to see you, buddy. You're not making baits tonight. That's good. You took the night off. I love it. So, what I do when I am pre-fishing, especially new areas, I went ahead and I brought up Google Earth, and this is Charleston, and I'm gonna zoom in on Sullivan's Island right down here, and there is a landing here in Sullivan's Island. It's called Station 19. And Station 19 is right here. You can see my cursor moving. There's actually a little blue dot right there. So if you look at this map right now, you can see that it is high tide. There is all of this green water in all of the creeks. It is a high tide image of Sullivan's Island. Now, the way that you change these and look at different images is if you come up here to the top to this taskbar, right here about the middle, there is a icon that says Show Historical Imagery. So if you click on that, you will see right here a little slide bar. And this arrow is at the far right, which shows the most recent image that the satellite took of Sullivan's Island. And if you slide that arrow to the left, you can see it changes the image. And that image right there is from February 22. And as you kind of slide back the images, you can see that there's cloud cover on that image right there. That's not a good one. And I'm going to move it a little bit to get off of that cloud cover. But as you move, you can find an image that shows low tide. And you just have to just kind of play with it a little bit. There's some cloud cover, so that's not the best image to use. But just keep kind of sliding through. Okay, so here's an image that I found that was low tide. And the way that you can see that is this flat area is no longer green. Right down here at the bottom, behind these docks, there's no water there. That's all mud. The only water is right in the channel. So now I can pick out all of the oyster beds. I can zoom in, and now you can really see all the oyster beds in these creeks. You can see all the structure. Matter of fact, when this image was taken, there's a boat sitting right here. And you can see how dry this flat is. Look at all the oyster bars, all the little oyster islands. And now you can see I'm getting into some real shallow water. It's starting to get that green tint, and then that is the Intercoastal Waterway right there. But that's how you check out these images on Google Earth. You use that slide image right here, go up to the taskbar and look for Show Historical Imagery, and just slide that arrow until you find a low tide image. And now you can really see the green is the water, and all this brown is all dry mud, the flat, and you can pick out all of the structure that you're looking for. So that's how I use the imagery on Google Earth when I'm pre-fishing. So hopefully that helps you out. Google Earth, you can go anywhere in the world and look at this kind of stuff. I look at all of the marshes before I pre-fish. And even if I'm going to an area that I have fished in the past, I will bring up this image just to check things out. Like right here is the Wandoo River. I fished the Wandoo River quite a bit, and I know it fairly well. But if I'm looking for specific areas, like around these docks, if I'm looking for, oh, let's zoom in right here. So around this dock right here, you can see there's some oyster right here, this dock, and this little bitty creek drain. So this would be an awesome area to hit. And on the other side, another great area. So another dock, another drain. Here's some oysters sitting right here. So this would be a great area to look at. There's a bunch of structure right here. I know that this gets real deep right here on the Wandoo. So shallow up in here, deep right here, up around the dock, that structure, the drain, all of this. So that's how I use it when I'm pre-fishing. So guys, hopefully that helps you out the next time that you are looking at a new area. I use maps all the time. I'm constantly looking at things. Again, even areas that I'm very familiar with, like Merle's Inlet, I am constantly pulling up the maps, especially if I know the wind is going to be blowing from a certain direction. I'll pull up the map and be like, okay, the wind is coming from the north. All of this is going to be protected. So I want to fish these dock areas. Where do I want to be at? So maps are huge. These satellite images I use all the time. So hopefully that helps you guys out. And again, if you guys have any questions, comments, throw them down there into the chat box and I will get to it. We will move on to the next one. Um, Mike Turilli, 3079, he asked, and this is the question. He says, how do you access that place? The sign says no trespassing. So what he's referring to is the north end of Pawleys Island, the jetties up there at the north end. He wanted to walk out that way and fish from the shoreline and fish those jetty rocks. And there are now some new homes that are built or have been built at that cul-de-sac at the end of the street. You used to be able to walk down to that cul-de-sac, cross through there, and walk right onto those jetties. Well, now you can't. There is a gate that is those homes have put in. You can't get by it. So I know a lot of guys like to fish those jetties and fish the surf out that way. That's the reason why I put this question up here. The way that you access that area is there is a small little parking lot for beach access before you get to the cul-de-sac. And if you park in there, walk out that way, cross over the dunes on the little walking path, and walk off to the left, it's maybe 300 or 400 yards. It's not that far. It's right around the corner, and you'll see those jetty rocks right there. But yeah, don't cross over if there's no trespassing signs. Don't walk through people's yards. There is an area to access that north end jetty. And if you are kayak fishing, you can put in at the 3rd Avenue landing and access everything on the north end from there. So that's hopefully that answers his question. The third question that was given to me this week is by Ken Pittman 2350. He says, tell us about your gear. So the reason why I put this one in is the last couple of weeks, I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, excuse me, is my YouTube videos has not had a description. It's had a title, but no description. And usually in that description, I have kind of a short little synopsis of the day or the video, and then I'll have all my gear listed out down there. Well, for some reason, there was some kind of a snafu, and it has not been saving and uploading. I don't know why. I'm trying to figure it out. I have actually emailed YouTube to try to figure out, why I can't upload this stuff. Because the gear list is something that guys access all the time to see rods, reels, line, all that kind of stuff. And I get those questions quite a bit. And I want to try to get that rectified, as quickly as possible. But I did want to go over the gear just because it hasn't been on the gear description. So let's start out with my rod. So I use 2 different rods. I use a TFO Pro S in a medium action with a fast tip, and also a TFO medium light fast action. I use a Cashin, the Icon series, in a 7-foot medium light fast action. And I really like those 2 rods only because of the sensitivity. The rod is everything. So I know I've said it before, but if you guys are going to spend money, if you're on a budget, and let's just say you're on a $200 budget for a rod and reel combo, spend the majority of your money on the rod. The rod gives you the sensitivity, it gives you your casting distance, and it helps you set the hook by the bend in the rod and the action in the rod. So again, my opinion is the rod is a lot more important than the reel. And I would say it's almost in, again, my opinion is like a 70-30 rod to reel. Now, saying that, there are two reels that I use. I use the Pin Battle 3, a 2500 series, and I use a Daiwa Legalis, a 2500. Doing inshore saltwater, you don't need 4,000s, 5,000s, 8,000 size reels. That is overkill. There are big reels. They chew up a lot of line. It takes a lot of line off of a spool to spool those things up. A 2500 has plenty of drag for you to muscle in fish. This weekend, Heath and I were out fishing, and I got two 24.5-inch redfish and handled it just fine. They were pulling drag. I never got broke off. My knots never failed. The 2500 or even a 3000 series reel is going to be just fine. I want to say, and somebody correct me here, but a 2500 series reel will give you about 17 pounds of drag, and that is more than enough for the fish that you're going to tackle inshore. If you're going to be targeting big bull reds out by the jetties and you know that you're going to be fishing for 40-inch redfish, yeah, I would use a 4,000 size reel or maybe a 5,000 size reel so that you can get those fish in fairly quickly. Because if I hooked a 40-inch red on a 2500 on that medium or medium light rod, I would be in for a fight, and it would probably take me 15 minutes to land this fish, and we would both be wore out. I mean, I would be wore out. The fish would absolutely be wore out. It's not good for the fish to fight them that long. So yes, if I'm going to be targeting big saltwater fish like a 40-inch red, make sure you beef up your gear. But if you're just going to stay inshore, maybe your biggest redfish is going to be about 30 inches. A 2500 series or a 3000 series is fine. You don't need anything bigger than that. Okay, and lines. I use 10-pound braid for my line. I use Daiwa J braid. I like it. I've been using it now for a couple of years, and I'm not going to change out because if it's not broken, why fix it? So I like the J braid. I like the light blue color. I think it looks cool on my setup. So line color, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. Guys use bright pink and yellow and white and moss green, and it doesn't matter. I use about a 3 to 4 foot leader, 20-pound fluoro, and 15-pound mono. So that's pretty much my setup. So guys, hopefully, if you got any questions about that, throw it into the chat box. He said my Pin 2500 ranges between 12 and 20 pounds of drag. Perfect. Yep. Awesome. So yeah, I appreciate that, Heath. Thank you. So yeah, that's more than enough drag for you guys to fight these fish. Don't spend your money on a 4,000, unless you're going to be targeting those big fish. Okay, so kind of moving on, let's talk about my fishing trip from last weekend. So, excuse me, I went fishing on Sunday, and Heath joined me. We had a great day out on the water, and it was high tide. So we had about maybe an hour and a half to high tide. High tide was right around maybe about 9:30. And our plan was to go fish the flats. We wanted to be up on the flats at high tide. And a matter of fact, last week's episode, I mentioned that that's where I would be fishing because the tide was going to be high and then start dropping out all day. So we stuck with the plan. We went out there, high tide, we fished around, and the first couple hours, we never got anything. We fished right through slack tide. We fished on one side of the flat, and then decided to kind of. We made it maybe about halfway down the flat. I kind of crossed over and put on a heavier jig, excuse me, and got down onto the bottom right in this little trough area between a little grass island and a grass point, kind of where I know when the water starts dropping out, it's almost like a little bit of a highway. It's actually a sandy bottom in between some oyster, and so I started to kind of throw around there, and right when the tide was starting to change and drop out, I picked up a flounder, and it was 16 and a half, picked him up right off of the bottom. So, and that pretty much started the day. So never got anything right at the pinnacle of high tide and that slack tide. But once the water started moving out, then the fish started to move. We started to see, or at least I started to see some shrimp popping around the grass. I started to see a lot of probably 3-inch mullet in the grass or just right on the grass line, moving right with the currents. Started kind of to see some mullet working in the kind of the middle of the flats, and some fish starting to chase those. We milled around for a little while, was probably another 30 or 45 minutes, something like that. And I made a couple of casts with a voodoo shrimp. I think it was like the 2.75 voodoo shrimp right along a grass line, and picked up a nice red. And matter of fact, here is the red right here. If you guys check that out. And that picture is courtesy of Heath. He was nice enough to paddle over and get that great shot. But really nice red. You know, picked him up right off of the grass line. You can see how close I am to the grass right there. So, yeah, what a fantastic fish. But when I was casting up towards the grass, I wasn't actually, when I picked him up, I wasn't in the grass. I was right on the grass line, maybe just on the outside of it. So I wasn't up into the sparse grass. I was right on it, maybe, you know, I'm just going to say like 3 feet off. And that's where he was cruising right there. We kind of milled around a little bit. Heath hooked up, but I think he got broke off at the kayak or lost him right at the kayak. So Heath was finding some fish. We kind of moved around the flat a little bit, and I threw up again around another grass line and picked up another nice 24.5-inch redfish. So these reds were up into the grass at high tide. Now, where I picked up that second redfish, we sat there and fished this little bitty area. It was almost like, I don't know, I'm going to call it a little bend or a corner of the flat, and there was a ton of activity up there. And there were more redfish up there because at one point I stood up into the kayak and I could see them kind of scatter and spook away. So there were more reds up there, and we threw everything but the kitchen sink at them, and we could not get another one to hook up. I ended up throwing the shrimp, the voodoo shrimp. I tied on a little slim swim. I tied on a topwater I threw out, a paddle tail. I think even he threw maybe a smaller shrimp on a real light, like 1/10 ounce jig head. So we were trying everything to try to get hooked back up again with all of the fish that were up into that grass feeding. And they were chasing bait because we could see them chase the bait, but we just couldn't get them to latch onto anything. So we just left them alone. We ended up leaving the flats, going out into the creeks. Um, I picked up two more small flounder. Heath caught a 15.5 inch redfish. And so that was a great day. Again, out on the flats, up into the grass, high tide, fantastic day. Now, what really set up this day was on Thursday night, Friday, kind of a cold front blew through a little bit. We had some winds. And Saturday, I never fished. I actually went to Lake Marion. We went on a boat ride with my in laws out there. So it was a really nice, relaxing day. But the wind was up. But on Sunday, the wind was down. So kind of let that front kind of push through, and things kind of settled down a little bit. The water temperature has started to come down. So from I guess now it's almost 2 weeks ago when I was fishing Pawleys, the water temperature was 70. Last Sunday it was 63 degrees when we got off of the water. When we first got on, it was 60, and it came up a couple of degrees. So that water temperature is starting to come down a little bit. And it was right around 63 degrees, most of the day. And so these fish are starting to get into those really good fall, early winter patterns now. So these trout should really start to turn on if they haven't already. And I know that the reds are turned on, the flounder we're catching. So now is a great time to be out there, fishing and working that. Especially the grass lines on high tides, working the shrimp. I'm still seeing a lot of shrimp back up into the creek. So, don't be afraid to throw those shrimp profiles. I caught the 16.5 inch flounder on a 4 inch paddle tail. Yeah, 4 inch Z-Man paddle tail. So they're still keyed in on bigger bait fish. So, don't be afraid to throw those bigger profiles. Okay. All right. So Steve said, time for the fly rod. Yeah, man. Yeah. That is something that I've been kind of kicking around a little bit, is getting back into fly fishing. I did a ton of fly fishing when I lived out in Colorado for about 5 years. And, you know, I, yeah, I'm starting to really think about, getting back into it, getting myself maybe like an 8 weight, and maybe start throwing around a few flies. But yeah, man, I hear you. Pull that fly rod out. That is, that may be a bucket list thing for next year, and try to get a redfish on fly. That'd be fantastic. Russell said, do you have the new camera working yet? Yes, I do. So went back out again. I actually picked up a brand new camera. And as I slide out of the way, here it is right here. So it is not the new one. This is GoPro 10. So it's still a few generations behind the brand new one. I think they're right now up to generation 13 for the GoPros. But yes, I've got it working. It worked great. I did have to update some software stuff because once you transfer that video over, the resolutions are a little bit different. So I had to, upgrade, a few subscriptions, but that's, kind of looking at how the sausage is made. That's a little bit behind the scenes, but but yes, it is working. I've got the back camera working again. The video that you will see this weekend, I've got the footage going in the back, so I think we're good there. So yes, it is. I appreciate that, Russell. Thanks for asking. Chris, I may have missed your report on this, but did you ever experiment with no leader and tying directly to braid? How'd it go? You know what? I ended up not doing that. The weekend that I was going to do that, excuse me, I went out and I fished, but I had the leader on, and I was going to fish that Sunday. without a leader. Well, that Sunday ended up just being a crappy day. The wind came up, it was kind of spitting rain, so I never did go out and fish without a leader because I was going to, and then I forgot about it. I should have, cut the leader off and redid it and went back out on my next trip. But yeah, no, I never did it. So I need to do that. So no, I never ended up doing that little experiment. Steve said a 6 to an 8 weight. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Um, If I could stand up in my yak, I'd be fly fishing. Yeah, yeah, never. Yeah, I have no balance. It's. I have seen guys sit down and use a fly rod. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit bigger, kind of backswing, kind of pulling up and back and getting out that way. But it would. I haven't, used a fly rod now for a little while. It would probably take me, I don't know, it'll probably take me a good day to get back into it. But the fly rod and the motion is almost like riding a bike. It is just that what you have to do is, once that line gets back and you kind of feel the rod load, that's when you kind of start that forward cast and how you form that nice loop going forward. I'd have to work on my timing a little bit to get that down, but I don't think it would be that big of a deal. It wouldn't take me that long to jump back onto it again. But yeah, that is something that I've been kicking around is looking at getting a fly rod. And so, if you guys got any good fly rod, name brands, anything. I know TFO makes a good fly rod. That may be something that I'm going to be looking at. But if you guys have something, shoot it to me and, I'll be shopping. It's Christmas time. I've been a good boy this year, so we'll see if Santa maybe shoves one down in my stocking. So, all right, guys, good questions. I appreciate that. Let's jump into the weekend. It is 8:30, so let's talk about the weekend forecast and weekend weather. So I am going to pull up the tide chart and share my screen again. So let's take a look at Saturday and Sunday and see what the tides are going to be doing and the weather. So right now, here is Saturday, and again, this is Murrells Inlet, and this will stay pretty consistent all the way down towards Charleston. Low tide may shift a little bit, hour here, hour there, whatever. But low tide is going to be in the morning here at Murrells Inlet on Saturday, 8:42. So again, it's going to be an outgoing tide and an ingoing tide, and Sunday's the same way. About an hour later, low tide is going to be at 9:46 on Sunday. So, if you guys know me, this is the tides that I like. Fishing that last 2 or 3 hours of the outgoing, first couple hours of the incoming. I just really love that tide. If the good Lord said, Chris, you can only fish one section of the tide for the rest of your life, that would be the one that I would choose. So I'm excited about this weekend. You can see right down here the wind on Saturday, maybe a little bit breezy. It may be that 10 to 15 miles an hour. There is a cold front kind of blowing through tonight, and it should start to settle out Saturday. And you can even see Saturday night, it's 5, and Sunday looks gorgeous, 5 mile an hour winds. So get out there and fish. So if I am fishing and I'm going out, and I'm definitely going out this weekend, here is the plan that I'm going to be executing. Is I'm going to be shooting up into these creeks at low tide, looking for redfish in skinny water. And I mean, the skinnier the better. The bait is still back there. The shrimp are still back there. These fish are going to be back there. And especially at 10, 11 o'clock on Sunday, the sun's going to be up. It's going to be sunny day. It's going to be warm. So if there's only a foot of water back there, it's going to be warm and these fish are going to be happy. So don't be afraid to push back into these creeks. And again, you kayak guys, pull those drives and use your paddle and push back up in there. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be hunting some reds this weekend, and that's going to be my plan. I'm going to get skinny and I'm going to look for reds. I'm going to be throwing shrimp imitation and probably some smaller finesse swim baits like the Z-Man Slim Swim, or maybe even like a curly tail grub on like a 1/8 ounce jig head, something along those lines. Because if I'm going in that skinny of a water, finesse presentation is going to be everything. I don't want to have a 1/4 ounce with a 5-inch swim bait and I sling it back there and there's a splash, and that's not what I want. I want a finessey presentation, maybe even using that shrimp when I make a cast where that shrimp kind of skips onto the top a little bit and then settles down, almost like it's being spooked out of the water for those fish to come over and investigate. So, guys, that's the plan. That's what I'm going to be doing. It's going to be beautiful. Sun's going to be out. Wind's going to be down. Tides are going to be perfect. So, guys, get out there and do some fishing. There's Steve said, I used TFO guiding for years. They work great. Oh, fantastic. So, yeah, that's a great endorsement from Steve. Absolutely. So, I'll probably look at the TFO rods and probably go that way. So, guys, it is 8:36, and again, I like to only keep this about 30 minutes. But again, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Remember, there will not be a DCO live on YouTube next week due to Thanksgiving, but there will be a special episode that will only air on Spotify. And if you go to Spotify and search DCO Live, I'll pop right up. And it'll be the 6th episode on there, and I'm going to be talking about cold fronts and fishing in and around cold fronts during the fall season and early winter. So, guys, I appreciate you, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks. You guys have a happy Thanksgiving, and hope you guys enjoy the holidays, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.